the shooting range. In this episode, rough ground, smooth shooting, an upgraded system for modeling gun stabilization, a brand new map inspired by the majestic Mount Roraima, the lost world of dynamic aircraft battles, Hotline, the developers answered questions that you left in the comments. But first, let's start with the Soviet hammer, the mighty IS-6. What is fast, well-armored, and well-armed to boot? This Soviet tank, apparently. The IS-6 is a high-power breakthrough tank that soldiers come on hell water. The IS-6 is a high-power breakthrough tank. With its magnificent armor and a 122mm gun, it's basically a less bulky and upgunned version of the IS-3. Its front armor can be pierced by only heat and HESH shells. And with a bit of angling, smart positioning, and luck, you'll be able to survive even some of those hits. The IS-6 isn't a doomsday weapon though. The vehicle is quite hard to take down, but it can and will be done. Watch your sides, don't go into enemy territory alone, Rambo style. It takes 15 seconds to reload the cannon, so an encounter with a group of enemies can turn sour really quickly. Now here's a hint, long before you'll get another shot. Make use of your excellent mobility. It's a gift from the engineering gods to make up for your less than desirable shell selection. As the tank lacks potent 471D shells, you might have some difficulties penetrating heavy opponents from the front, which means that you should be flanking them, and the IS-6 can certainly do that. If you're going into battle as a group of IS tanks, do not be afraid to rush straight to the most contested and therefore dangerous spots on the map. You'll make a great attack and spearhead for your team. This armored vehicle is surprisingly well protected from attacks coming from above. If you see a heavy fighter or an attacker flying your way, greet them with some fire from your high-caliber machine gun. It's certainly not a very reliable way to fight enemy aircraft, but anything beats just waiting for a rocket to blow you to smithereens. One last thing, have fun. Now let's talk about something that was one of the most anticipated features in the game. For quite some time, the stabilizer in specific tanks was simulated with a generic high vertical guidance speed on the gun. It did the job, well kind of, but it wasn't very realistic, so we remade the system. Now there are basically two types of proper stabilization systems, single plane and dual plane. They work in a pretty straightforward way. With a single plane stabilization system, the sight is only stabilized in one plane, usually up and down, so any movement of the tank left and right still affects them. Dual plane means that the gun is stabilized in two planes, up and down and left and right. Regardless of the type of stabilization, it's quite a joy to have such a system installed. Just imagine driving your tank across uneven terrain with hills, bumps, and whatnot, while also landing accurate shots. Oh yeah. Another piece of good news is that stabilizers were added to many vehicles with medium BR. Sherman's got it, for example. Their systems don't have the best stabilization capabilities, but they do make a difference at low speeds and at short stops. Then there's a special case, the tanks with the ability to aim the gun using a lever, which also has a certain stabilization effect if the tank moves slowly. For these vehicles by default, the gun will aim as before with the help of aiming mechanism. The button that enables the stabilizer will unlock the gun and enable stabilization mode. One last thing, it's a good idea to remember about the enable/disable stabilizer button, even if your tank doesn't allow you to aim with a lever. You'll notice that the advanced dual-plane stabilization mechanism might make it difficult to react quickly to a threat coming from the side. The gun will try its best to hold the previous target in sight. You can deal with this issue by temporarily disabling the stabilizer while turning. I hope that helps. Mount Roraima inspired the great Arthur Conan Doyle to write his iconic novel, The Lost World. Our artists used the same inspiration to create a new map for air battles. War Thunder maps tend to be relatively flat. There are only a few exceptions to that rule. The new aviation map doesn't only fall into the second category, it also takes the idea of dramatic terrain to a whole new level. You start at around 6,000 meters above sea level. Some of the objectives will make you climb up to 9,000 meters, while the edges of the map drop off to about 1 kilometer. Crazy, right? All of that thanks to the fact that the battle takes place above a true natural wonder, a gargantuan mountain plateau rising up against the landscape. You'll be dodging cliffs, dropping into gorges, and soaring back into the clouds. It's perfect for dynamic warfare, surprise attacks, unexpected bombing runs, and racing. Yeah, we will not be surprised if we see a whole lot of new racing scenarios based on Guyana Highlands at live.warthunder.com in the near future. Who doesn't like pod racing? We're joking, of course. If you're not into this kind of thing, then there's still plenty of things to do here for any kind of pilot. There are bases to destroy, ground targets to eliminate, and enemy aircraft to take care of. It'll be a very busy day in the Highlands. Now it's time for the traditional last part of our show, Hotline. Developers answering questions from the comments. Strictly speaking, it's not the most serious-minded section of the show. If you want answers to be given with solemn faces, feel free to appeal to the official War Thunder forums. Here we'll have a more lighthearted discussion of the big questions of War Thunder. The first question comes from a player called Bill Fatal. Are we ever going to get more single-player missions? And what about tanks and ships? Thank you for your efforts. Hey Bill, yeah sure. For example, we just added a new PvE game mode called Assault. You can play it on your own or with up to 7 friends. It's pretty awesome. Check it out. And yeah, quite a few tanks and ships are in the works. Thanks for asking. Then a player called Zeusbeer asks, why do British shells lack explosive filler? Some of them actually have it, but yeah, good question. Historically, there were a few different reasons for that, but the main thing was that APHE shells didn't do any more appreciable damage while costing more and being less reliable in general. Basically, it was the case of good enough. Next question comes from Slender Spy. Where do your 3D artists get their references and how accurate can they model their vehicles? As accurate as it is humanely possible. It might sound a bit pompous, but we do believe that accuracy in vehicle development is our ultimate target. We rely on all sorts of official sources and documents and work with historians and engineers. At the same time, we appreciate any knowledge and data that you can share with us. If we see sources that can be trusted and paint a different picture, we include these characteristics in the game. The last message comes from a player called Sniper Archer. Hey War Thunder, do you mind adding a new tank to the game called the Krupp Cruiser P1000 Rade? God damn it. That's it for today, but feel free to write your questions in the comments below. We do read them all, and you might see some of them answered in the next episode. If you like what we're doing, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. See you on the shooting range.